Let's do it.
Nice. We're starting great style. Okay. 2 seconds to go, apparently. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are. Welcome to another Jam session. I'm bestselling, I'm co-founder and CMO here at Rock Content, and it's my pleasure to be your host today. What are Jam sessions? Are interviews where we aim to provide advice and share trends and best practice on how to master successful marketing, storytelling, and content experiences. Today, we have a very special guest, Andrew Davis, best-selling author, speaker. I'm going to tell a little bit more about him, but a small PSA. We're going to have a special giveaway of an audiobook edition of his bestseller, Brandscaping: Unleashing the Power of Partnerships. The winner will be announced at the end of this session. Okay. So, Andrew, welcome.
Yes.
So
Hey, thanks, man.
yeah, I tried to put together a short bio about you, but you do so much that it was hard to make it short. So I don't know if I keep it short or try to speak really fast, but I'll summarize and you let me know
Okay.
if it's okay, right? So, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed keynote speaker. You built and sold a digital marketing agency, produced for NBC's Today Show, worked in the Muppets in New York. That's interesting, right? Has appeared in New York Times, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, many other outlets. It is recognized as one of the industry's jaw-dropping marketing speakers and a mainstay in global marketing influencer list, right? Very enthusiastic, very, right? Good mood.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah, right. No, it is not. I don't think it's not by accident that I saw that you got a hero award from Content Marketing Institute, right?
Yeah, I
So
did. Wow, man, you guys have really tapped in. Yeah, I did last
so
week in Cleveland.
yeah, man. I wish I could be there, but the US is not
Next year.
accepting. Yeah, of course, the US is not accepting Brazilians right now. So anyway,
Crazy.
yeah, I know it's a huge pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, thanks. Well,
so
it's nice to be with you guys to jam for a little while. Let's jam.
yeah, right. Let's do it. I have a guitar. I don't play it very often, but who knows?
Oh, I have a ukulele. It's not on my set. I didn't
uh,
bring it, but we could have jammed.
One day, yeah, we can jam one day, like ukulele and guitar duo.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've done so much. You wear a lot of hats, right? Speaker, consultant, etc. But I want to hear from you. How do you describe yourself? So, are you a
Yeah.
what's your
I,
self
d- I,
description?
d- I mean, I describe myself these days as an author and a keynote speaker, and that's it. I mean, I feel like I try to just keep it simple because I don't
Oh,
do any other consulting anymore.
got it.
I really do enjoy the writing, and yeah, I mean, I do a lot of videos online, and certainly enjoy that. But yeah, I spend most of my time just writing and speaking, which is really fun.
Awesome. So, and you've been doing that, if I'm correct, for like 13 years now, right?
Yeah, wow, good. Yeah, really good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I started speaking full time in 2012 actually. So a little less, but close enough.
a little less. Yeah, I checked your LinkedIn, so I was like, okay,
There you go.
there's a good approximate number, right?
Yeah, right.
Uh, yeah, awesome. So you've been doing that for a long time, but I mean, I have to bring that up. So you worked the Muppets.
Yes.
So were you like a puppeteer? How does that, or
No,
the,
no,
no, you were not.
no, not me.
Oh,
No, I wasn't a Muppeteer. I worked in the workshop where they made all the puppets. So like every morning I would come in and there was Miss Piggy, with a new outfit on. And it was
awesome.
I worked with about 40 really talented artists who every day were working on Kermit the Frog and Bear in the Big Blue House and movies and TV shows. So it was really cool. I mean, I met my wife there. So it was a great job to meet my
Yeah.
wife. And I lived in New York for a
Okay.
bunch of years. It was great.
Wow, that's great. So you went from a very like manual and like physical job to digital marketing, right? That
Yeah.
wow. And how was that shift? Like what made you say, you know what?
Well,
I don't like build puppets anymore.
Well, it was at the workshop. I mean, at the workshop, my job wasn't like actually to build puppets. I wish I could say I was an artist. I'm really not. But my job was to basically, it was not the fun job. It was the job of to keep everybody on schedule and on budget for movies and
Oh,
TV shows. So it was
got it.
not fun. But here's what I learned. I mean, it was the late 1990s, right? So like this was the first dot-com boom. Everybody's getting lots of money for these startups. And I was working in television and film, and I was working actually on a show called Bear in the Big Blue House. Do you know the show, Sonia?
No, never
No.
heard of it.
It's
No, I'm gonna
if
Google it. Yeah.
yeah, Google it and look, you can look it up. It's a beautiful puppet. It's a big bear, and he lives in a blue house, and he has some otter friends and stuff. Anyway, it was a really good show. It was very, very popular in the late 1990s in the United States. But when I started working at the Jim Henson Company, it was a partnership between Disney, the Jim Henson Company, and Sony, right? These big companies. And I sat down at the first budget meeting, and it was all these famous, companies and people. And I was brand new to the company, and everybody was going around in the production meeting for Bear in the Big Blue House, and they were saying, "Hey, how are you doing? How's the budget? How's the budget?" And they got to me, and I said, "Man, the budget for the workshop is really in trouble. We're about $500,000 over budget, and we hadn't shot one episode of the show yet. We were supposed to shoot 20 episodes." And they said, "Well, that's all right. Like, welcome to the team, Andrew. I'm sure you'll get it back on track." And I thought, well, what? Like that, they don't seem to care. And 2 weeks later, I went to a meeting with the people who are in charge of merchandising and licensing. So those are the people who, if Bear in the Big Blue House is successful, they will sell you the Bear in the Big Blue House doll, or they'll sell you the Kermit Frog doll, the Sesame Street, Elmo, right? All that stuff. And I said, "Look, they said, 'Do you have any questions?' I said, 'Yeah, I have a question. I'm now like $800,000 over budget. We haven't shot any episodes yet. I'm really worried about the budget, and no one seems to care.'" And the merchandising people, the two women who worked there, were really smart. And she said, "Hey, look, don't worry about it. What we need is to create great characters, great story, and great content that people fall in love with, so that they buy stuff they didn't know they needed. And if you take all these artists and you just take away their creativity, because you say, 'Hey, you got to finish that head in 2 hours, and don't spend any more time on that body. You've overdone it, and stop writing that script. It's good enough,' that they wouldn't be able to license the characters, because no one would fall in love with the show. So they essentially said, like, when you're $2 or $3 million over budget, then call us, because that might be a concern. But right now, let them do their work." And that's when I realized that, great content has the power to inspire people to buy stuff they didn't know they needed, and fall in love with a product, and really see their passion come through. And it allows you to charge more for stuff that, otherwise is a commodity. And it was that lesson that led me into the marketing world eventually, that realization that good storytelling and great content can inspire people to buy stuff they didn't know they needed. And if you can tell a great story, which I learned in television, then I thought I'd be fine in the marketing world.
That's awesome, and it makes a lot of sense, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's a great lesson from going over budget. What I learned by going over budget,
Yes,
one
exactly.
of
What
yeah,
I learned
right.
from going over budget.
But yeah, but and it's something that we talk a lot about in marketing, right? So how you gotta create great content. We're gonna get to that, of course,
Yeah.
and it's going to be very tied to the topic of today's session, that is why people should stop selling products and start solving problems. So I would say,
Yeah.
why marketers, right? We're still people, but we're very specific. We sell a lot. Why marketers should stop selling products and start solving problems, right?
Yeah.
So go into that quickly. What does that mean? I mean, I'm a marketer. I have a product to sell. Well, should I stop selling this? Of course not. So how do you explain that?
Yeah. Well, I think it boils down to really understanding that by the time someone's looking for a product or a solution to solve their problem, it's too late for you to own that customer. It's like they've got 50 options and ideas in their mind. And 80% of consumers today, especially in the United States, 80% of them know what product they want to buy before you, that marketer or that company, has ever heard of them. That means they've gotten their information from other sources. And so if you really want to be a better marketer, if you want to sell more product or services, you need to actually own the relationship with the customer much sooner. And that means you need to understand their moment of inspiration. You need to know the instant in time that sends them on a journey that might end up leading to you. So like if you sell shoes, it's no good trying to win the battle of like what's the best running shoe, right? Because they've already been convinced they need running shoes. They're looking for the running shoes. They're going to read a lot of evaluations. There's a lot of great content out there by great third parties that are going to convince them to buy something. But if you can inspire someone to go running every day, then they're going to trust you and your shoes before anybody else has a chance to get there. And so great marketers truly understand that you don't sell the product, you sell the result of the product. And if you can get there early, you can win more customers than anyone else.
Got it. And since you mentioned the moment of inspiration, it's one step on your loyalty loop.
On the loyalty loop, yeah, exactly.
Is it, I would say, trademark, copyrighted loyalty loop?
No, it's not. Anybody can use it. No, just like a moment of inspiration. Yeah, it's like, it's yours now. You take it. I don't need to own it. I want anybody to use it because I think it'll make us better marketers.
Sure. Yeah, but you're the creator, right? So you're
thank you.
The mind behind it. So that's what matters, and you're helping people. But can you explain to us, to the audience, what is the loyalty loop? That it starts with the moment of inspiration, right? Am I right?
Yeah. Well, you can start anywhere. That's the great thing about the loyalty loop. It's just a series of interlocking loops. But the moment of inspiration is usually the moment when a journey begins. And so the moment of inspiration is just an instant in time that sends you on a journey you never expected. And then the moment of inspiration leads to what's called the trigger question. And the trigger question is the first question that pops up in your mind anytime that moment occurs, right? So it could be anything. It could be an easy thing, like, you had a tuna salad for lunch and your breath smells, and that's your moment of inspiration where you're like, oh, I need some gum. Well, the trigger question is, what kind of bubble gum are you going to buy? What kind of breath savers are you going to buy? And then the prime brand is the first brand that pops into your head anytime that trigger question occurs. So those are the first three. Moment of inspiration very quickly leads to the trigger question. The trigger question very quickly leads to the prime brand. And yeah, we got to own those three things. Those are really important for you to know.
One
keep
question.
Going through it? Yeah.
I'm gonna grab a few specific parts of it. There are some that I believe are quite interesting. But going back to the moment of inspiration, it's a very internal thing. If you think about it, everything is happening inside the person's mind. So how can you be there at that moment, right? As a marketer, because it's like,
that's true.
Some neurons firing here. I want to be
like, hey, here I am. Yeah.
Hey, neuron, here I am. Right.
That's right. Well, I think there are three ways. Okay, so the first one is, and the first one I recommend everybody start with, is a lot of moments of inspiration are already happening in the mind of your clients and customers. So what those moments are, right? Like if I bought shoes 3 years ago from you, but I haven't been back, those shoes are probably old right now. And I'm eventually going to say, I need some new shoes. So you need to create the moment for me. You might even email me and say, hey, it's been 3 years. I bet those shoes are looking pretty crappy. Let's talk about some new shoes. Well, that's good, right? Or if you're in the service business, every time you send an invoice, when you just send an invoice by itself to a client and it says, services rendered $5,000 or whatever it says, that moment is a moment of inspiration. They might be thinking, wow, $5,000, that's a lot. I don't think I'm getting my value I need. So you need to be ready with that trigger question, right? That trigger question is, maybe I can find someone to do it cheaper. And you need to be ready to say, hey, $5,000 last month. Here's a rundown of all the things we did. We love working for you. Here are the results you found. You need to justify the value you're providing so that when they say, wow, that seems like a lot, maybe I can find it cheaper. They turn the page and they go, well, you're never going to get that kind of service for $5,000. Like, we can't get any cheaper. You need people to think like that. So the first one is, you need to remember that your clients and customers constantly are already having moments of inspiration, and you should predict what they are so that you can answer their trigger questions and be the prime brand for them. The second one is, a lot of times they're caused by the media at large or external forces, right? So, if you're watching a morning show and they're talking about the best software to make you productive today, that means all of a sudden they're triggering in the mind of a lot of people. They're creating a moment of inspiration where they're thinking, maybe I need some software to be more productive today. And that all of a sudden gets them going, right? And the third one, I was just going to say that there's a third one. The third one is actually personal moments of inspiration. So, if you find out your partner is pregnant, well, all of a sudden that's going to send you down a long list of moments of inspiration. And that somewhere along the line, if you sell cars, you might be on that list. That they might realize that their car is too small for 4 kids and we need to buy a bigger car. So you just need to think about the fact that we do have a lot of data and insight into customers and clients today, and we can help provide them with the information they need when we see the moment of inspiration about to happen or is already occurring.
So, and would you say that is when you kind of plug in the loop into the content marketing tactics that we do?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
because I'm a content marketer, right? So I'm just like, that's a workflow inside my content marketing platform because something that I've done for customers a long time ago, but was basically they sold air conditioning. Like, you should have this workflow. What's the cadence? I said 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, every 6 months they have to change the filter, right?
Yes.
So, and you go into that, and then when they find out, and there's something really interesting that I saw you at a presentation that you said the generic or the default prime brand, that I don't remember the exact word, is usually Google.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
And that's quite interesting, because if you ask me, hey, I don't know, imagine that, okay, my girlfriend's pregnant, and I say, I know nothing about it. I don't even know what to buy. So it's going to be Google.
That's right. Yeah. So you're going to be Google. And if you think that way, then you're going to start to think, like, what kind of content could I give them that's going to serve them, but start building a relationship before everybody else. So, like, for example, if it might be, let's take that pregnant scenario, right? It's an easy one. So if you don't know anything about raising a kid, and the first thing you're worried about is like 5 things I need to know to raise a kid, that if you sell cars, that's probably not content you want to create. But eventually they're going to search like, oh, car seats, right? Now, you don't sell car seats, you sell cars, but you might be able to create some great content, or even like a 5-part email series that's like 5 things you need to know about your car and the car seats and safety for your kids. Sign up now. And if you can get them to make that moment of commitment, then eventually they're going to get to the point where they need the car, and you're going to be the prime brand. They're going to be like, oh, Bob, the dealer down the street, keeps emailing me. I've got a good relationship with them. I trust them. You're more likely to think of them as your prime brand than anyone else.
Awesome. Yeah. And when it comes to Google, I think that's where SEO plays a heavy part, right? So we are a company that we grew mostly on SEO. Right, we're differentiated now. But I remember a case that I read recently. I forgot the name of the company. They're basically a snack company, like food.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a lot of business by actually being first for everything that's related to office perks. So top 10 perks to have at your office. One of them is always free snacks. It's like, man, how do they think of that, right?
Because that's the moment of inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you make my workplace cooler? They're solving a bigger problem. And if you're losing employees to the startup down the street that has free snacks, right? The question you're asking isn't like, where do I get free snacks? It's like, how do I make my office cooler than that office? And that's the moment of inspiration. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and that goes out to something really interesting, because we're always marketing to people. Right. So, and people will think in ways that, I mean, it's hard to understand. So we need to use data and guess. So that's really cool. Okay, we don't need to go through the entire loop, but there's some parts that I really like. It's right after, prime brand, and then there's the question. You answer the question, and it's your customer now, right?
Yeah.
Well, and then there's this entire part. And that's interesting to learn about marketing. And I think it has a lot to do with lottery as well. But I can get there later, is the anticipation, right?
Yes, yes,
So, and you use an interesting and seems very fancy term, hedonic decline. Did I say it
yes.
right? Hedonic
Yeah,
decline,
hedonic
right?
decline. That's right. Yeah.
So, how does that work, and how does that affect marketing, creating the anticipation for your product?
Yes. So, okay, so if you think about buying any product, you're in when you place an order for something or even you buy something, you're like a 50 on an enthusiasm scale where it goes from 100 where you're like more excited than ever before, and 0 is like I forgot what I bought, right? So we have a chance as brands and companies to actually make you more excited or make you less excited. And if you do nothing between the time somebody orders something and the time they get it, they're either going to stay flat or go down, right? Because life goes on. You got stuff going on. Even if it's 24 hours, they're waiting for the product. What we need to do is help raise anticipation for the product's arrival in their lives or the service arrival in your life. So people get more and more excited as they get closer and closer to opening that package. So raising anticipation is a really important piece, and it combats hedonic decline. Hedonic decline is this simple idea that you're more happy and excited about something that you're anticipating than you are the purchase itself. So this has been studied a lot. And what happens is if you do a lot of research, like I do this when I buy electronics, I spend weeks figuring out what television I want and what model, and I know all the numbers, and then I know all the stats, and then I finally hit the buy button. And I was really excited doing all that stuff. And I was so excited about the TV. But as soon as I hit the buy button, it's like all that excitement was over. And then when the TV comes, yes, I'm excited, but I'm not 100 on the scale. I'm like a 40. And the best brands in the world, they take that moment where you hit the buy button and they say, oh man, you just hit buy. It's going to be exciting. Let me show you a tutorial video on setting up the TV when you get it. We need to do a better job of raising anticipation for the next step in the customer journey, no matter what it is.
Yeah, and you mentioned a study that people are more excited before the vacation than during the vacation, or their satisfaction level. And that's weird, right? So
it's very weird. It's very weird.
At your PC, at the office, at a cubicle, and say, whoa, your happiness level like that is higher than when you were like sitting down drinking margaritas at the beach. And
that's true on average. Here's the thing, and it's up to 8 weeks before a vacation. That's the key, right? So if you go on vacation, let's just say for a week or 2 weeks, right? You might be happy for those 2 weeks, but when you start asking people 8 weeks before your vacation, the study was a bunch of Dutch guys that did this. They basically asked you, how happy are you today on a scale of 1 to 10, right? They didn't ask, are you excited for your vacation? They didn't tell you anything. They just asked you every day for 8 weeks before the vacation, through the vacation, then 8 weeks after the vacation. And it turns out, yes, on average, most people are happiest for the 8 weeks leading up to the vacation than the vacation itself or the rest. Right. And I think it has a lot to do with anticipation, because think about it like this. You go to the website of the hotel you're staying at, and you see the beautiful pictures, and it's got the flowing curtains, and the beaches out there, and you can't wait to get there. You're so excited about it. You're at a 9. You're like, I can't wait to get there. Then you get there, you check in, you open the doors to your room, and like your view is of a parking lot. Like you're not as excited as you were the day before you left. So I think a lot of it has to do with our ability to maintain and raise that anticipation for the next step constantly. Like I pulled this out because the loyalty loop is like a slinky. Do you remember the slinky?
Yes. I do remember that.
Yeah, right. It's a good little toy, but it's not like a one-time experience. So like a moment of inspiration is here and a moment of commitment is here, and we need to raise anticipation for the next moment of inspiration. So we'll stick with that vacation example. We need to remember that when you open the doors, you might not be so excited about the view. So we need to actually do something at that moment to get you inspired to think about the next step in your journey. That might be we might even say in a little note on your bed that says, hey, we didn't have a beach view room for you, but here's free champagne and some roses and strawberries, right? And you're like, wow, that's great. That's what we need to do.
Got it. And yeah, it's basically because, in a sense, reality we always get in a way of our
That's right.
ideal scenario, right? So reality is a
Unfortunately,
bitch, right? Yeah, you know what?
yes.
This real world, and I don't know. It reminds me of the studies of Daniel Kahneman in Thinking Fast and
Yes,
Slow.
yeah,
He
yeah,
doesn't study
right.
before, but he says, hey, your memory of something usually it affects your happiness more
That's right.
than the moment itself, right?
Yes,
And that's a theory that I also have for the lottery. Lottery, you're buying pure anticipation, right?
absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
statistically you're not going to win the lottery, but there's a chance, and as long as there's a chance, you're paying for 1 week of dreaming. 1 week
Yes.
of being a millionaire in your head, and that's it's not the real world, but it's true happiness, right? If
Yeah,
you buy
that's
a
a
lottery ticket,
it's a
right?
great example. That is a great,
Yeah,
I saw a lottery, I spoke at a lottery conference once, and
yeah.
there was a lottery campaign that when you bought one ticket, you might win that lottery that night, but also that night they picked a few people, I think it was 10 or 20 people, to come to the studio like a few days later and then spin a wheel to win again. So those people were not only buying the anticipation of maybe winning the $1 million on the first night, that as soon as that was over, they were like, oh, but I might get on the show. And if I get on the show, I might win the money. So like that's thinking like a real loyalty loop, because you're like, you know what? I got disappointed. I didn't win, but no, I might have another chance, right? Like you're getting them more excited about the next step in the journey.
Like here's the next one and the next one, right?
Exactly.
But I mean that's a great business model, right? So I sell blog posts, but you might get a blog post or not, right?
That's
But it's
right.
gonna take me 2 weeks to write it for you, but it's gonna be
Yes.
the best blog post ever. Here's the
Best
intro,
post.
right?
That's right. That's exactly right. In fact, that's another one of the loyalty loop drivers. Like the more you can actually like scale camaraderie, I call it, but it's basically show me what you're doing and show me who's doing it. The more you're not just raising anticipation, but you're building a deeper relationship. So many service providers, they say, hey, thanks so much for signing up for a blog post. We'll have it for you in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks go by, and the person who hired you occasionally thinks, I wonder how that blog post is going. I wonder if they're even working on it, right? I wonder if they're just going to do it in the last day and send it to me. But when 2 days into the relationship, when you email them and say, oh my gosh, we had a great brainstorm meeting, it was me and Pedro and Marina, we like talked about this stuff, can't wait for you to see the first paragraph, I'm going to work on that now. That's when they're like, wow. And they're building a better relationship with you, and you're showing them the process. And if you screenshot the first paragraph and send it to you, I guarantee they're going to be like, this is great. Like, I can't wait for the next step in the journey.
And then like blur the rest, right? So
Yes,
censor.
that's right. That's exactly what you want to do. Show me, don't tell me, and make them feel like, oh, there's more coming.
Since we mentioned blog, because we sell content, right? We do have
Yeah.
software content and services,
Yeah.
but we started only as a marketplace of content. And and today we talked about vacations and lottery and the TV, but my actual customer and of a lot of our viewers is the CFO, right?
Yeah.
And you're in the procurement business.
Yeah.
How can you apply that for like a quote unquote boring market and also a recurring thing, for example, subscription of a software?
Yeah.
How do
Well,
that in
so
principle?
it's this, I mean, look, here's the thing. The more boring your business is, the better the opportunity to do this is. So, when you sell vacations or you sell shoes or you sell fun, everybody that sells fun is selling the same stuff, and it looks great and it looks easy. But I think when the business is boring, everybody else's business is just as boring. And the only thing that differentiates you when you sell a commodity product is the experience you provide. So here's my suggestion to the CFOs out there, to the boring people that think they're selling boring products. I just want you to just write down, you're going to take a piece of paper and you're going to make 3 columns, okay? In the first column, you're going to just write down what we do. And you're going to think of the first moment that a customer or a client builds a relationship with you. I call it the moment of commitment. So let's say that somebody fills out a form for a quote because they want to buy industrial shelving, right? And they fill out the form. That's the first moment of commitment. Now write down every little micro step you do. So like number one would be like you send an autoresponder that says we got your information. Number two might be that the sales rep calls. Number three might be that they set up a meeting to talk on Zoom for 30 minutes. Number four, like what, do they send a thank you after that Zoom meeting? Write down everything. That's what we do, okay? Now, in the next column, I want you to write down what they do. And the they is just your competitors. You probably know what they do for the same thing. So you can, and if you don't know, go onto a competitor's website and act like a fake customer and fill out the same form for the same kind of service and see what happens. They're going to send the autoresponder. They're going to try to call you. Then they're going to try to set up a meeting. Then they're going to thank you for the meeting. Then they're going to send you a proposal. Now, these two columns are going to look very similar. On the third column, here's what I want you to think about. I want you to cross off anything that's the same in the two columns, which right now would be most things. And then the last column, you're going to say, we could do. And instead, you're going to write down things you could do. Like after they fill out a form, you're going to send them a personalized video from a salesperson saying, I'm working on getting you a quote right now. My name is, Pedro. I'm working on it. Can't wait to get you some good numbers, right? Now, all of a sudden, you're creating an experience that's different. And then right after you send the quote, you might, which you might do, very quickly, you might actually then also send a text message shortly after with a link to like three reasons you shouldn't buy from us. And that's like a blog post that's like, we don't want to do business with people that don't believe in these things. Now you're thinking differently. And that's the kind of experience that makes people say, wow, buying from them is different. It's better. And it's worth paying more for versus everybody else. So the more business the more boring it is, the easier it is to make that could do list.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because a lot of people are not thinking creatively in the boring industry. So it's basically mapping the customer experience right after
in every little step, because it's the small steps that matter. It's actually not the big ones. So the more you can think through those, you'll make a bigger impact.
Awesome. Okay, that's amazing. And very focused on after you get the customer, right? So he just asked for a quote, etc. Earlier in the journey, one question, because like the moment of inspiration, the trigger question, you have to create content for that, right? So ultimately, if you want to scale, it's going to be mostly content. And how does that sound similar? Provocation here to the funnel, right? The marketing funnel. How does the loop replace the funnel, or like we marketers, because marketers are murderers, right? We like to kill stuff. Does the loop kill the funnel, right, or something like this? Or
I think it's better. I don't think they work together because the funnel is linear, right? And it assumes that here's the big fundamental problem with the funnel. I'll boil it down to the simplest thing. Number one, the only reason we should stop using the funnel is it's only focuses on raising awareness. And yes, 100 years ago, that was true. The only way to get more customers aware of what you did was to buy advertising and make them aware of it. And today, that's not true at all. There are lots and lots of other ways to build a better customer experience and get more customers without just raising awareness, just making them aware of your brand or the product or service in the marketplace. And so it doesn't actually make room for great content. It's like you got to get them aware of the content you're creating if you're using the funnel. And to me, it's much easier to interrupt somebody else's consumer journey with great content that feels different, that builds trust, rather than worrying about raising awareness for stuff that it isn't going to do it.
So the funnel, it's old school.
It's old school. It was invented 122 years ago.
Exactly. So your younger competitor would be HubSpot's flywheel.
Yes,
Push the
yes.
hard, right? At the flywheel.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it goes
They
like
got the
around the
flywheel,
customer.
which isn't bad because it's at least it's not linear, right? But it still does rely on awareness.
Okay, so that's the big difference. So one question about differentiation at the content level, right?
Yeah.
And that might sound contradictory because, well, we're trying to differentiate and being original,
Yeah.
but is there a playbook for it? Like a playbook
Yeah, for original
for
content?
for being different? Yeah,
Yes.
basic
Yeah,
good
there's
principles.
three things. There's three things I think everybody who's creating content has got to think about. Number one, it's got to be from a person. It has to be from somebody I can build trust with. It can't just be from the brand. It can't be written by the company. It can't be a video by the company. You have to build people into the content you're creating, because I want to build a relationship with the people behind the brand. It comes back to one of the loyalty loop drivers, scaling camaraderie. We need to build mutual trust and respect for the people behind the brand if we're going to charge more and get more customers today. So think about it this way. If you're going to create a bunch of content, even just to try to win the SEO game, all of that content needs to be by the same person from the same brand, so that I start to say, you know what? I keep seeing this guy Andrew everywhere. Every time I find a good article, it's from this person. Who is this person? I trust this person more. Where are they from and what do they do? We've got to attach people to the content. So that's number one. Does that make sense?
Well, it does a lot. I mean, you even mentioned SEO, right? Google is
Yeah.
taking that into account with EAT, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. We
So
need
yeah,
to know that they have authority. Exactly. And I
exactly.
think it's a big piece of the puzzle. So you got to have a person attached. The second thing is the content needs to have a hook. No longer can you create content that's just 5 top 10 tips and 5 things. It needs to have a simple twist on a familiar theme that's designed specifically for your audience, so that they say, this seems familiar. I really like it, but it's a little different and it's unique. That's the key. So I did at one point I wrote, there's 6 different kinds of hooks that I identified that help you give that little twist on the content so it feels different. And if it's from a person, that hook gets attached to that person and as a result to the brand. And now you're building content relationships where people say, I could read 5 top 10 tips, but I know Andrew does this really good series called Versus, where he compares 2 industrial shelves every week, and every week there's a winner. Like, I'd rather watch that or read that than this. That's going to make your content differentiated immediately and stand out for the audience. So it's brought to you by a person and it's got a hook. And then the third one, the final thing is, you've got to, volume is great, quantity is fine, but at the end of the day, you've got to make an appointment with the audience. You've got to set an expectation and constantly and consistently deliver on it. So just creating a bunch of content once in the hopes that that's going to be enough isn't as good as getting people to commit and say, look, if you sell accounting software, what you really want is to build deep relationships with accountants and people and CFOs, right? You don't just want them to be aware of your product, all of a sudden consider buying it, show some intent to buy it. Some of those people might actually buy it, and then a few of them are going to become loyal advocates. No, what you want is a lot of accountants every week or every month being reminded how awesome you are, because you're helping them become better accountants. And anytime they need new software, or anytime they have a problem, or anytime they need to recommend a product to some other accountant, you want your name to be the prime brand. And that's what consistent delivery and an appointment with your audience delivers. So those are the 3 things. It's got to be attached to a person, it's got to have a hook, and it's got to be consistently delivered, like on an appointment basis.
Yeah, so it's got to be more unique instead of too generic, right?
It can't be generic anymore. That worked like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's something that you said yourself about being a great speaker, right? You cannot have a presentation that can be answered by Google, something like on
Exactly.
that front, right?
Yeah. You've got to ask a question Google can't answer. It's got to be different. Because if I can get the answer on Google, why go see a presenter, right? Like, it's just, you don't need it.
Right? Exactly. You can sent to that website. Let me Google that for you. Do you know that one?
No, what is that?
Oh,
That
that's a
sounds
really
great.
good one. It's a joke, right? Like a
Okay.
practical joke. But when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, Fesanya, what is content marketing?" And you go in. Let me Google that for LG and that F whatever the initials, and type content marketing and send that
Yeah,
link. Basically,
that's
it will
so fun.
open. There's going to be like a fake mouse cursor that's going to click. It's going to type, and then right after that, send to Google. Right?
That's so funny. I'm gonna use that. I love that. I'm gonna definitely send that around. That's so
Yeah,
funny. I've
yeah.
never even heard of that. I love that.
I haven't used it in a while, but a few years ago, when the office was smaller, we did like,
Yeah,
come on, you know what? So what is
that's
this? And
so
like,
funny.
let me Google that for you.
That's so. Are you guys growing a lot? Have you grown a lot in the last year?
We have,
That's
and
good.
it's an interesting thing if you think about it, because we do a lot of inbound. We do a lot of content
Mm,
marketing. We are
yeah.
one of the largest content marketing companies in the world. We started in
Yep.
Brazil, right?
Yeah.
So we've been doing this for 8 years. We acquired a company in the US 2 years ago, 1 year and a half ago. And what happened is early in the pandemic, a lot of people went offline, went online. Buy
Yeah.
intent was low, so the top of the funnel. I'm gonna go back to the funnel, but that
Oh
moment of
no.
inspiration, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people were a lot of questions, right? They were looking for
Yeah.
safety,
Yeah.
right? Job safety, and when you feel unsafe, you won't go for
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Our blogs, they like skyrocketed. We
Mm,
already had a huge audience. So in Brazil was around
okay.
2 million sessions a month. In
Wow.
Spanish, kind of the same. We went all the way up to like 6
Wow.
million sessions, and now we are at around 7 million sessions a month. Right?
Wow. That's a crazy amount. Wow. That's great.
Yeah. And two things are at play here. One, our SEO, but in Brazil, we have a strong brand. So the
Okay.
brand, and we talked about brand. Brand plays a
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
huge role, especially nowadays, where if you think about it, privacy is a major issue.
Yes.
So third-party cookies might go away at some point, but you have
Yeah.
iOS 14 blocking data sharing, you have
Yeah.
iOS
Data
15
sharing.
blocking
Yep.
whatever, and GDPR, etc. So that was a really great. In that sense, the pandemic was a really good sales pitch for us, because
Right.
you know what? If you don't have an audience, people are not looking at your brand right now. And
That's
then
very
Rand
true.
Fishkin comes and say, hey, 60% of the Google searches are zero-click searches.
Yeah.
So you gotta build your own brand, you gotta build your own channels, and that's what we teach, right?
Yeah.
So
That's great.
and that was good for us. So right now we are like 7.5 million sessions. So it's a
Wow.
lot of sessions, for a marketing blog.
Yeah.
So that
Right.
was really, but we've been doing that for 8 years. But for example, we just started in the US 1 year and a half
Okay.
ago,
Yep.
and we went from like nearly 0 to 120,000. So
Wow. That's great.
yeah, we know the SEO playbook, and of course we're gonna use a lot that we're learning from you, Andrew. So
No,
because we're
right.
also bring
You guys
that.
have got it figured out, I'm sure.
Yeah, but for example, so we still have 2 minutes before questions, but
Oh, yeah,
that
sure.
and that goes back to one thing that it's in your book, Brainscaping, right? It's about
Yeah.
partnerships, and that's interesting because for in the US we're doing partnerships anyway.
Yeah.
So can you summarize it, like the importance
Oh,
of
yeah.
the partnership, what you brought? Very quick
Yeah.
summary of
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
landscaping.
here, yeah, the concept is that today it's easier to build content relationships with people. So like essentially two brands who want access to the same audience or have similar audiences can partner up and create content that serves both audiences. And all of a sudden you have access to a new audience that you didn't have before. And so some of the examples in the book are really compelling in helping you understand actually things like the hook and the making an appointment with an audience and attaching people to the brand. But it's all about instead of kind of paying for access to an audience by buying ads or getting email lists and names, creating better, deeper, longer term partnerships with brands who maybe are not even endemic, they're not competitive with you, but they have a relationship with your brand. So for example, we've been using this accounting software thing I just mentioned. So like if you sell accounting software, who does it make sense to partner with? You want to think about the people who buy, what do they buy before they buy your stuff, and what do they buy after? Because those are the perfect partners, because you're going to get the intent, you're going to understand their moments of inspiration, and you're going to have access to those people. So for example, if you're going to sell accounting software to small and medium-sized businesses, you maybe want to partner with like the person who wrote the book, like Accounting for Dummies, because maybe they just need the basics. And in that book, they're going to need to then decide to buy software because the Google Sheet isn't going to work for them much longer. So you want to get a relationship early with all the people who are buying that book and then signing up for the course, and vice versa. So what content can you two create together that would be valuable for both audiences, so you can both cross-sell and upsell all the way along? And you can do it with a really long set of customers. So that's what brandscaping is about, creating content partnerships that are mutually beneficial and actually drive revenue.
Got it. In the SEO world, kind of guest posting makes sense. It would be
that's like a small version of it. Yeah. So like one of the big differences is you want to think long-term relationships. So instead of just guest posting on one person's blog, can you guest post, every month on the biggest blog in the industry, so that you actually are building a deeper relationship and sending people both ways all the time, instead of just one guest post that gets a spike. We call it valley elevation. So you want your relationship to look like that, where it's constantly going up and to the right, instead of what happens when you do a guest post is you get a big spike and then a big spike and then a big spike, right? You want to constantly grow value in the content itself.
Awesome. Okay, Drew, thanks for everything. Very insightful.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah, we have a few questions. Let's see.
Let's do it.
There's one for me, but if I have projects for French or European markets, not so soon, even though we have European customers who speak English and Spanish.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah, so Ingrid asked, what about show, don't tell?
Yes.
For you.
Show, don't tell. That's something I talk about a lot. Yes. Here's the thing. There's always an opportunity to tell people stuff. Like marketers are great at telling people stuff, and we're very good at telling people how we're different, but we don't often show them how we're different. And that's the key difference when you're creating content or creating an experience, or even when you're just crafting an email. You want to ask yourself, how can I show them we're different instead of telling them we're different? So instead of saying, like, hey, we're so excited you signed up with us, or we're so excited to have you as a new client, is there a way you can show them that's more powerful? Can you take a picture of the team, like with a big sign that says like welcome aboard, and like that actually shows you're excited? I want you to think like that. Show instead of tell anytime you can, because that's what makes the difference. And we need to stop telling people we're different and start actually showing them how we're different.
It's just like telling people you're funny without telling jokes, right?
Yes, that's a great example.
I'm funny, folks. Trust me.
I'm so funny. That's true. Instead of telling me you're funny, like just show me. Tell me a joke. Let me laugh, and then I'll know you're funny. That's a good point. It's the same thing as telling people you're cool. Hey, man, I'm cool. Well, no, as soon as you tell people you're cool, you're not cool anymore.
Exactly. Awesome. Mila or Myla asked
Hi, Myla.
Yeah, so because of COVID, everything changed, and transactions and touch points, everything's digital. We talked a lot about digital here, but do you feel that it might have killed the human side of relationships? Do you think that in person at some point is necessary? And she also says because from her point of view, everything is so generic now. Right?
So Myla, you're so right. I do think, here's what I think. I think you're dead on. I think because everybody's doing what everybody else is doing, it seems so impersonal. And so one of the big opportunities as marketers is to scale camaraderie, bring those people back into the relationships at any time you can. There's actually a magic number, Myla, For all the brands that I've investigated, the magic number is 4. If you can introduce your customers and your clients to 4 people behind the scenes, like if you can write an email tomorrow that says, hey, I'm Mila, but guess what? I work with Ingrid, and Ingrid is awesome, and here's what Ingrid does, and she's working on your SEO for our project. You know, like, she's a great person. If you ever want to talk to Ingrid, let me know. You've now introduced your client to 2 people at the organization, and it feels more personal. You're absolutely right. We need to bring the people back to the relationship, and COVID has made it a very different kind of world where it does feel like I'm just getting another email from another thing or another person that I don't have a relationship with. So bring back the people, scale camaraderie, and build some mutual trust between 4 people at your brand, and you'll be much more successful.
Great. Oh, that's a great one. I mean, I would never have guessed the number 4.
Yeah, 4. It's 4. Like, you can do more, but basically there's fall off. You know, they start forgetting the names. You don't need more than 4. You just need 4. 3 is like not enough. They feel like they know some people, but they don't know enough. And so 4, magic number is 4.
And don't be too generic, right? Because during COVID, it was always, during those troubling times, I hope you're safe.
Yes.
Do you want to buy this? I say, well, I don't care about it. I want to sell me.
Yes.
I got so many of those.
We're here for you. We're here for you. I'm like, I don't care. You sell diapers. Like, I'm not that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So last question is from Adrienne. We kind of touched it already. So let me know if you want to basically bring anything extra, because she says she works for this enterprise company. And she's not sure how to apply the loyalty loop the way we said it in this big environment. I think, and she asks, how should? But the question is good. How should she start?
Yeah, Adrian, this is a great question, and it happens all the time in big organizations. I get this one a lot. So you're not alone, number one. You should know that. Here's what I suggest. Instead of trying to change the customer-facing experience by using the loyalty loop and making that, like, you know, what we do, what they do, and what we could do list, start with just internal communications, because the loyalty loop works internally just as well as it works externally. And the bigger your company is, let's just take scaling camaraderie, for example. If you work in a big company and you're an enterprise and you're in one of your silos, it's hard for the other silo. Like, if you work in marketing and somebody works in accounting, there's probably not a deep relationship there. But if you just take the time to say, you know what we currently do is we send, we send forms to accounting, they send us back a number, and then we send out a request for a check, and then somehow a check goes out, right? Instead of just letting that happen, take the what we do, what we could do, like, list, and start to add some personality, like scaling camaraderie. So next time you actually are emailing or interacting or slacking, or maybe even stopping by the office once a week with a new kind of experience. And that's when people in the enterprise will start to say, you know what, Adrienne does something different. Her team comes over, they do this thing. It seems like it's a routine, but it's so nice. It makes me feel good. I'd do anything for the marketing team. That's when people are going to say, what do you do? And can we teach it to other people in the organization? And when you start changing the experience inside, you change the experience outside, Adrienne. So I know it sounds like a tall order, and it won't change fast. You know that. You work in an enterprise. But just take a few small steps to change the experience inside first, and you'll start to see the difference.
Awesome. That's amazing. So, folks, we're near the end. So, Pedro, do we have a winner for the audiobook? And meanwhile, Andrew, can you tell the audience how they can get the audiobook?
Yes, we're going to give the audiobook to everybody, even Adrienne and Mila, anyone who wants the audiobook. All you have to do is sign up for the Loyalty Loop, my weekly video series. So you go to loyaltyloopers.com and you put in the secret code JAM session. You got to put in the secret code. Otherwise, I can't send it to you. Secret code. Shh, top secret. It's like jam sessions. And we'll send you a link this week to download the audiobook, and you can listen to it all you want. And it's 8 hours of me yelling at you. So I hope you enjoy it.
Okay. So, Andrew, that's been great. I had a great time. I think it was
me too.
Great content, and I hope a lot of people hear us. Right, we have some people live here, but a lot of people will be listening to this in podcast format. It will
Awesome.
go to podcast probably next week. I'll let you know.
That's
So,
great.
bye everyone. Andrew, once again, great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you so much, Pisania. Thank you.